Hey there, I am Julie Barrett, founder of Conservative Ladies of America, and today I am going to be sharing with you a little bit about the hate crime hotlines that are going on around the country. Recently, I've been sharing a lot of information about some of they're calling it anti-hate stuff that's going on in Washington state. In the 2024 legislative session, the Washington State Legislature passed a bill. It was Senate Bill 5427. And this bill created a hate crimes hotline. Now, the original bill included a $2,000 award for victims of hate crimes. But when they brought the bill back out in the 2024 session, they removed that award, that $2,000 payment to victims, and now it's just a hotline. So, one of the things that I testified on against this bill was, what are they using the information for? Is it strictly to help so-called victims of hate crimes, or are they collecting data on the offenders? What exactly is going on? And the wording of the bill is very ambiguous and leaves a lot of room. It's very broad and leaves a lot of room for interpretation. And so now the Attorney General of Washington State has created a task force for this hate crimes hotline. And they will launch a pilot program in June or July of 2025. I forget which it is. And then it will go, it'll be in 3 counties. I believe it is it's King County, Clark County, so Southwest Washington, and Spokane County. Those will be the counties for the pilot program. And then in 2027, they will roll out a statewide campaign. At the same time, the Attorney General's office had requested a bill. It was House Bill 1333. And this was a domestic violent extremism commission that they wanted to create, basically a ministry of truth to target their political enemies and prosecute people, punish people for speech that they don't agree with. They had targeted in their presentation that they gave to the legislature back in 2023 when the bill first was introduced. They did a presentation to the committee, which included groups like the Proud Boys, Washington 3%ers, and the presentation that they showed had people holding up signs, saying things like there are only two genders, no one is born in the wrong body. And so clearly they are going to be targeting people who live in reality and speak truth as people who are domestic violent extremists. So this was very concerning. Last week, I happened to stumble upon the 2024 budget that was passed by Washington legislature this year. I learned that there was a budget item passed for a task force for domestic extremism and mass violence task force through the Attorney General office, funded at $247,000. So essentially, this House Bill 1333, while it didn't get passed, it didn't even get brought up again in the 2024 session. They managed to sneak into the budget the funding to allow them to start this task force working on this, which they're supposed to report their first findings in June or July of 2025 to the governor's office. Now, the Attorney General, the current Attorney General, is Bob Ferguson, and he is also the governor-elect of Washington State. So all of this is by design. Now, they had their first meeting on Zoom on Friday morning, and the task force was loaded up with over 30 leftist folks. You had the Black Lives Matter executive director for Seattle, King County. You had a couple of people who were out of a group in Illinois, a firm in Illinois, and they are basically anti-white. They target white supremacy and hate crimes and hate groups and things like that. And they have been contracted, which means they're being paid by Washington State to be on this task force. Now, what you didn't see on the task force was anybody who is to the right of crazy town leftists. So the task force is all very far left, socialist, Democrat, Marxist folks, anti-American people. And that was how I felt when I was watching the Zoom meeting on Friday morning. I really felt like this is so anti-American. And you might be thinking, if you don't live in Washington and you're watching this, you might be thinking, wow, I'm glad that I don't live in Washington, so I'm not having to deal with this. Well, as I've been going down the rabbit hole since last Tuesday on this stuff, I have learned a lot about hate crimes and kind of the history of hate crimes. And it's not new, it's been going on for several years now. I don't know exactly how far back it goes. I only traced it back about 5 years. But the federal government is funding these hate crime hotlines, and they are giving out grants of over $1 million to states that will launch these hate crime hotlines. And the funding is to help with victim services and for task forces to come up with how these are going to run. Now, California already has a hate crimes hotline. Their hate crimes hotline was launched, wait for it, March of 2020, just in time for COVID lockdowns. They also got a grant from the federal government in 2023. I believe these grants are something that has transpired within the Biden administration. I don't believe that they were in existence prior to that. So, as we hear from states like Washington and California and New York and Illinois and Michigan that are still very, very blue and they have these bad laws, they've got these hate crime hotlines. They're wanting relief from the federal government. They're hoping that Donald Trump is going to do something about this. And the fact that there is federal funding, there are federal anti-hate programs. The Department of Justice has a whole website set up for hate crimes and this whole anti-hate agenda. The fact that this is a federal program actually gives me some hope for these states and these programs. With Trump being the next president, I feel like we might have a chance to get rid of some of this stuff. And another thing that I think is helpful is you have Elon Musk, who is very pro First Amendment. He's very pro free speech, which is the whole reason that he bought Twitter, so that people like you and me could be able to speak freely without getting our accounts suspended or deleted altogether. So I'm kind of hopeful that this might get on his radar and he might take this up with Trump. I don't know what that's going to look like in the, Department of Government Efficiency, but certainly this isn't something that we should be spending our money on, American taxpayer dollars, funding this anti-American hate crime hotlines. These are fully to target people like conservatives, Republicans, people who aren't going along with this leftist agenda of, 250 different genders and men can be women. We're not doing that, and they want to punish us for not going along. And I fear that if this continues to thrive and grow and spread across the United States, I fear that this is going to become a really big problem for us. And so it's something that every American should be concerned about, because it is anti-American to force people to say certain things. And this is exactly what they're trying to do. So I have gone, like I said, I've gone down the rabbit hole. I've found a bunch of information. I'm going to link below all of the articles that I've written over the last week about it. Every article that I've written has more links. All of the graphics and images that are embedded in my articles are clickable, and that will take you to the link where I got that information. So if you want to go down the rabbit hole and you want to find out how did we get here, because that's how I got into all this. When we had our experience in Washington State with the state circumventing our parental rights with our 14-year-old daughter, I wanted to know, how did we get here? Who made these laws? How did this happen? And so I went down the rabbit hole. I read all the bills, and I'm not trained in activism. I'm not trained in policy. I'm just a mom that got really curious that the government got into my family business. And so I started using a search engine and going down the rabbit holes. And we all need to do that. I regret that it took such a horrific experience for me to start digging for this stuff. But there's a lot of bad stuff going on in our government, and we all need to be paying attention and be learners and be curious about how did we get here? Who's making these laws? Who is voting for these laws? Because it's not just Democrats making these bad laws. In fact, the hate crimes hotline in Washington was voted on a bipartisan basis, which means that Republicans voted for it too. There were just a couple, and I'm not going to name names here, but you can go search it up, and I've got the links in my articles if you want to go do that. But that's a problem when we have our legislators, our lawmakers across the board who are willing to support unconstitutional policies. And you would be shocked at the number of policies that do not go along with our Constitution. The barometer for these people who are making these laws should be, as they create a bill, as they read a bill, as they vote on a bill, does this follow our Constitution, our federal Constitution and our state Constitution? That's a pretty easy way to make laws in America. Follow the Constitution. That should be the fallback on every single piece of legislation that goes on in this country. So I encourage you to get curious. If I can do it, you can do it. And I know people say, I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to find bills. I don't. Use a search engine. Type in what you're looking for. It can be yesterday I typed in how many states have hate crime hotlines in America. And I got all kinds of fun information. So it's really easy like that. And then you just start digging around and poking at links, and some of it'll be garbage, and other stuff you'll find probably information that terrifies you. So I encourage you to get curious and start researching this stuff. And if nothing else, please at least follow our work. We put out a lot of calls to action to make it easy for citizens to take action and make your voice heard. So if you don't have the time, or you just don't want to, or whatever the case may be, at least subscribe to our Substack, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're putting out lots of calls to action that you can even do from your smartphone. Make it quick and easy for you. That's our goal, is to make it quick and easy, and something that you'll say, that takes 30 seconds. I can do that. That's where we start. We got to start speaking up. We've got to start showing them that citizens are watching and making our voices heard. So be sure to subscribe to the Substack. That's where you'll find updated information as this whole project moves forward, not just in Washington, but on a national level as well. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.